On the second day of the Rwanda Zimbabwe Trade and Investment Conference, President Paul Kagame tasked officials and business leaders on both countries to expedite cooperation in trade, agriculture and education with a sense of urgency. My colleague Athan Tashobya sat down for an exclusive interview with Dr Sekai Nzenza, Zimbabwe's Minister of Industry and Commerce, for a detailed conversation on the outcomes of this conference and what people should expect from the 5 Memorandums of Understanding signed between Rwanda and Zimbabwe.
And yesterday we witnessed the signing of 5 MOUs in the areas of environment, climate change, agriculture, livestock, ICT, and also between the private sector. So we're quite excited by the strengthening of the strategic cooperation between the two countries. And there are vast opportunities, which I'm happy to talk about, between the two countries.
So one of the comments from His Excellency the President, President Paul Kagame, was the deals that are sort of urgent. Agriculture, textile, mining, but specifically education. What should we expect from Zimbabwe's part in the implementation of the deals that have been signed?
His Excellency mentioned that Rwanda was in need of teachers. And I'm grateful that His Excellency wishes to cement the relationship that he already has with our President, His Excellency Idi Mnangagwa. That friendship is now being translated into cooperation and in education. So the request from His Excellency Paul Kagame has been taken on board, and when I go back, I will transfer the same message to our president, and then we'll take it from there to see how best we can implement and also meet the needs that have been presented to us by His Excellency President Kagame.
The volume of trade between the two countries is still low. I think you mentioned that in your speech yourself. What are some of the short and long-term targets for this cooperation to work?
The volume is true, it's low, but we are now taking the opportunity to identify what areas we need to focus on in terms of priority. So this conference has enabled us to identify what are the low-hanging fruits, what are the areas of cooperation. Today I met with my counterpart, Honorable Beata Habriyamana, and we were able to share the areas of mutual cooperation. From Rwanda's end, they mentioned the need for expertise in agriculture. And Zimbabwe does have that experience that spans many years, because we do have the land, the water, the weather, which we have. And she also mentioned that Rwanda is importing soya edible oil from as far as Brazil and also from Asia. Now, Zimbabwe has the potential. Already we have an agriculture recovery plan where we are going to be growing a lot more soya than we have ever done. And the weather has also been quite favorable. So that's an area that we're going to be looking at in terms of agricultural and agro-processing. And secondly, the other product is sugar.
Yes.
Zimbabwe grows a lot of sugar. And I gather that Rwanda is importing sugar. And during COVID, the need for sugar also increased because the borders closed. Yeah. But here is an opportunity. In Zimbabwe's lower belt, we are one of the highest producers of sugar in Africa. And we're going to be exploring that as well, so that we have cooperation in trade when it comes to sugar. And another area?
You talked about textile as
Textiles,
well.
yes, I was going to talk about that.
Yeah.
Now, Zimbabwe's cotton industry, in the past, to begin with, was one of the best in the world. But we now have a strategic plan to grow more cotton. And that type of cotton grown in Zimbabwe is also used not just for oil, but the cotton lint is also quite valuable, and we make cotton cake, the cake that comes from the cotton seed that's used for stock feed. So we got a whole lot of beneficiation. But let me talk about fabric, which is what Rwanda is really interested in. So we are going to be exploring, as part of the bilateral trade, how Zimbabwean grown cotton can be processed and also exported to Rwanda.
So in a nutshell, probably as we conclude this, what should a trader between Rwanda and Zimbabwe expect from the Trade and Investment Conference as an action plan?
We are very excited about the horticultural produce. That's apart from the soya and the cotton. I would like to talk about horticulture. Zimbabwe is growing organic horticulture and exporting to Europe. Avocados, oranges, blueberries, peaches, you name them, we've got them. But what's going to happen now is that we are now going to be talking to the private companies and creating that trade corridor between Zimbabwe and Rwanda in the line of horticultural produce. We're also excited by the fact that Rwanda Air is flying to Harare. And yesterday, in one of the meetings that we had with the Private Sector Federation, we even talked about the possibility of cargo flying from Harare to Rwanda or from Rwanda to Harare. But certainly, I would like to end by saying the low-hanging fruit is the horticulture produce.
Dr. Sekai Nzenza, the Minister of Industry and Commerce of Zimbabwe, many thanks for your time indeed.